Welcome to West Kentucky Community and Technical College's Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and I want to cook with you. Hi, welcome to West Kentucky Community and Technical College's Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Brett McCarthy, and we're going to be making something that probably is a little bit of a novelty, or maybe not so much of a novelty anymore because you can get them in a few places, but I still think that there's some places, some people who don't know how to do this. But this is lava cakes, and you might have heard of them, and this is a cake that when your guests cut into it will actually have the chocolate, the melted chocolate, come out of it, and we have one already made up. I'm going to show you how that is. It's very pretty. And essentially what it is even though it looks like chocolate coming out, just plain old melted chocolate, it's basically uncooked batter. And we set it up, and it's what makes it so that it doesn't taste too floury or uncooked. What we end up doing is we put very little flour in this. Years ago, they used to make something called a flourless torte, which was very much like a fudge torte, had eggs and sugar and a lot of butter in it. And of course chocolate, but not very much flour, if any flour at all. This has very little flour. In fact, you can see that it's just a small amount of flour. We have about a half a cup of flour, and we have a cup and a half of powdered sugar. The other part of the recipe is we have 3 whole eggs and 3 egg yolks, and we have 12 tablespoons of butter. This is a very, very rich dessert. You can almost get 2 people out of one portion. And then we have approximately, and you know what, this is a good chance for me to introduce my new teaching assistant. This is Michael Pate. How much chocolate do we have in here? Was it 12 ounces?
I think 6 ounces, actually.
6 ounces of chocolate. That's right, we doubled it, didn't we not? Okay, and then we got a little powdered sugar for garnish and some mint leaves, and we're going to use some of that raspberry coulis. I showed you on another show how to make the different dessert sauces, so we're going to show you how to do that. So we're going to get started with this, and the first thing that we're going to do is we have to coat 4 souffle dishes, okay? And you can use a non-release spray. You can even use butter. I like the Pam, works very, very nice, works very well. I'm not putting a plug for Pam, but it just does a good job there. And you spray the insides. And Mike is going to show you the next step to that process. Mike, if you could just come right over here,
okay,
actually.
Let me bring
He's going to show you how to do this.
Stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you want to take one of your ramekins here, and you want to trace an outline around the ramekin to get that outline, because you're going to take this piece of parchment paper and put this in the bottom of there to help it come out of the ramekin there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut around. You don't want to go right on the line. You want to go kind of inside the line, because of course we all know that the width of that is it's a little bit wider than inside the cup. So we're going to take that, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to place it right there in the center, so that when that batter's poured in there, it'll be poured in on top of that, and then once it's baked off, it'll come out much easier.
Much easier. You think it might be better if we also spray that inside a little bit, you think?
Actually,
that
yes,
probably would help out a lot
too.
bit. So even though you've sprayed the whole inside, that's going to actually make that for that to stick, and then it won't stick to the top.
So I'll go ahead and
of course, we can use, when we unmold these, we'll be putting a knife around the sides, but we don't have any way to get underneath. So sometimes it sticks a little bit, so this will just help. When we get those 3 other circles.
Okay. Let's go ahead.
You could also use something like what they call a baker's joy, which has the flour mixed in with the spray. That seems to work really well. That's a release spray as well. These will just go right in.
And you just kind of
just like that, and we'll spray that.
Go ahead and spray that again. There you go.
The next step that we're going to do, and I'm actually going to have Mike, I'm just going to use Mike continuously so that I don't have to do any work on this on today's show. But we're going to start with the 6 ounces of chocolate. and I believe it was 12 tablespoons of butter. Is that correct?
I think it's 10 tablespoons.
10
actually.
tablespoons of butter. He's going to correct me all so long because I can't quite remember the actual recipe. But on Paducah2.org, you can get all the recipes. Just go to that website, and the recipes will be right there, so there's no guessing whatsoever. All right, so we'll just start with that and just turn that right on. And be careful with chocolate. Chocolate can break up. We're using a nice, dark, bittersweet chocolate, high quality. The better the chocolate in this particular case, since it's of course, it's the main ingredient, or basically the main ingredient, should be really good. And a bittersweet chocolate works really well.
I'm gonna let you.
Okay.
I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick.
All right. You can go ahead and do that. See? All right. And we're just gonna swirl that around. Of course, chocolate melts really quick. You can see how nicely that is. I use real butter in this recipe. This is not a diet recipe. Don't even try a diet recipe. I don't want to hear it with this recipe. Okay, don't say, can we use honey instead? No. Okay, sugar. All right, powdered sugar. That's all there is to it. All right.
That's melted very nicely.
That's very nicely. It's beautiful. Very quickly. Well, you know, the chef did it. That's why. See? Well, you know, you gotta give credit where credit is due. Mike's all nervous, you know. Of course, he hasn't gotten seasoned yet, so
not yet.
We haven't broken in. You know, we got the hazing coming out. Oh, shouldn't say that. I gotta break them in, you know. All right. Okay, so we're going to add that chocolate right there. We're going to add our half a cup of flour. Okay, and we're just going to put that right in like that. Just like that. And I'm going to stir that in using the whisk. It was a cup and a half of powdered sugar, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? Okay. And you just kind of whisk that in. Be careful not to have too many lumps, but if there's a few lumps, it's not a big deal. Okay. This is what's going to give the backbone. You need a little flour just to give this dessert a backbone, or else it probably wouldn't set up hardly at all. You're essentially making a chocolate custard with a little cake around it. Okay. So now we're going to add our powdered sugar. Again, I kind of spread it out so that it'll mix in and it won't seize up on me and create a whole bunch of little balls. All right. I'm going to add that to there. You know, at this point, we almost have a chocolate ganache, don't we?
We can make some truffles out of that.
We can make some truffles out of this. It's amazing how, you know, I always tell people, I said, you know, with baking is relatively simple in the respect that in many instances we only use a few ingredients, but so many things come out of a few ingredients. If you notice most baking, you know, we got sugar, we got flour, we got chocolate. We have eggs most of the time, and we have oil. But how we cook it and how we put it together, or how we bake it, and the steps that that are involved, all these different things come out of it. Isn't that amazing? So we take the first 5 or 6 ingredients, and we can make all different kinds of things. So in this case, we could make a ganache. At this point, we could make truffles. If we added a little more flour, we could probably make those decadent chocolate cookies that we made just the other day. And there's not much of a difference, is there? So it's really quite interesting. This is 3 egg yolks and 3 whole eggs, and we're going to mix that up. I always whip them a little bit. I want to get a little air in there. This is just going to make a lighter batter for you. Okay, and I use my little tiny whisk that I stole from my daughter. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a little whisk that I bought for her. And it's just the cutest thing. And I end up using it all the time because it's just big enough for 1 egg. And I want to say a big hello to Bobby and Kenny from our church, and Mama, who is a faithful watcher of our show. Awfully kind, gave my wife and I some daylilies to plant for next year. So hi to Bobby and Kenny and Mama. Hope you're all doing well. All right, so that's just beautiful. Look at that. That's just gorgeous. Okay. So I'm going to give this over to Mike. And Mike, you're just going to fill those up. You're going to fill them up just a little over half full. And when we pull them out of the oven, they should be dry on the top, a little bit cracked, and we're going to show you how that looks. We're going to show you how to unmold them. We're also going to show you what's the best way to garnish them to make it very good. And so we'll see you back in just a few moments. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and we are doing lava cakes, which is a chocolate decadent dessert that your guests will just go ooh and ah over. These days, it's been around long enough where it's kind of become old hat, but I'm going to show you a very easy way to make it, and I guarantee you your guests will just love it if you make these from scratch. I've seen them now in the store that you can buy, but they're not anywhere near how good they are if you make them yourselves. Mike is my new teaching assistant, so we welcome Mike to the program, and we're going to be using and abusing him for the next semester.
That's okay.
And so, Mike, you're going to fill these up. We've made our batter already, which is really all that is it's just powdered sugar. We got chocolate in there, of course, bittersweet chocolate, and it's important that it be bittersweet because this should have kind of that real nice old-fashioned flavor, I guess you could say, with that bittersweet flavor. It shouldn't be too sickly sweet, so we don't want to use a milk chocolate or a semi-sweet would be all right, but I like the bittersweet. The bittersweet is usually a darker chocolate, so a darker chocolate is always better. So I think that's how I differentiate between a semi-sweet and a bittersweet. A bittersweet has a little bit more cocoa solids in it, and so a bittersweet has a little bit more of that dark flavor, kind of that real chocolatey flavor. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
I'm right. That's right.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to use an unsweetened chocolate because then it would just be kind of dry and disgusting.
Exactly. So we'll do that. And we add powdered sugar to that. We have eggs in there. Really nothing else. And butter.
And butter.
And butter. Lots of butter. Love the butter. Butter is better. All right. So we're gonna pour that in, and just a little bit over half full, and I'll let.
Now what you want to do here is you could use a measuring cup if you wanted to, or a scoop, but I'm just going to go ahead and pour it in there. It will get a little messy, but that's okay. You want to fill it up about 3/4 of the way to this inner line right there. I guess it doesn't have to be exact. It'll be okay. You want to get them pretty evenly because you want it to bake pretty evenly.
How come yours were so thick before?
Over mixing.
I guess that was
you don't want to over mix it because that flour, the gluten in the flour will build up, and then you have this really thick, chewy batter. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that one up. What I had to do before was take a spoon and kind of make them even on top, make it kind of look pretty and whatnot. I guess if you wanted to,
a bit more than that. I think
put a
we
little
can add
bit
a little
more.
bit more. I think that one's perfect. Let's add a little bit more there.
Okay.
We're perfectionists around here.
Okay.
Not really.
We try to get everything to look exactly the same.
There we go. Maybe
Okay, a little bit more
in each
in
one
these two.
there. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
It was like Julia Child always looking over the shoulder. Now she doesn't have. She didn't. Of course, she's passed away. God bless her. But she used to look over. She had her last show was head chefs, and she would just work with them. And I say work with them. She did more tasting than working with. She's a little. That's
little
very
bit more
good,
can
and
go
we'll
in.
just take a little bit of that. Oh yeah, that's really good.
Definitely. Just get a little bit more.
And I'll tell you, Julia Child. I'm not saying anything bad about her. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. and I learned a
That
lot
should be
from
good.
her. Quite a few chefs got their inspiration and even the reason for becoming chefs from Julia Child. So we're going to put that in a 425 oven. We're going to bake that for about 15 minutes is what we're looking at. About 15 minutes is, and it's going to puff up, and we'll know it's done because it'll be a little bit cracked on the top. All right, a little bit cracked, and it'll be dry on the edges. We want it so that there's just a little bit of molten or uncooked batter on the middle. If we had too much of it, it won't stay intact and it'll kind of fall apart when you unveil it on the plate. Now, if you're afraid of unmolding it, you can certainly serve it in the souffle dish. There's no law against that. It'll still taste great. So, you know, if you're scared about that, that's fine. But we kind of like to be on the risky side, so we're gonna unmold it for you and show you how that's done. While that's in the oven, talk a little bit about chocolate. And some of you are wondering probably, you know, what is good chocolate, what is bad chocolate, you know, what's the quality chocolate. You're now seeing chocolate come in the store and it might have 62% cacao. That's just the amount of cocoa bean solids that are in there. Of course, the real ratio that you want to know about is how much cocoa butter is in there. And a high cocoa butter content would be at about 35%. Unfortunately, many of them don't tell you how much cocoa butter is in one. The more cocoa solids there are, the darker the chocolate becomes. So that's kind of what I was saying before, that bittersweet chocolate separates from semi-sweet. We also have what they call white chocolate, which really isn't chocolate at all. In other words, it doesn't have any cocoa solids in it. During the process of making chocolate, they actually separate the cocoa solids from the cocoa butter. And essentially, white chocolate is a mixture of the cocoa butter of only the fat of the bean mixed with sugar. So that's white chocolate, and that's kind of why you know, it's albino, because it doesn't have that chocolate solids in it. So that's white chocolate, and really not considered chocolate at all. We also have, of course, is the old standby, is chocolate morsels. Now, chocolate morsels are fine, but you're going to have a little bit more difficulty if you do chocolate morsels with this recipe, because chocolate morsels are meant to resist melting. And the reason why is, of course, they're used a lot in cookies. And so they have to stay, they have to actually stay formed in the cookies. So we want to stay away from these. These you might have a little bit more difficulty, but just do them very slowly, stir them slowly, and they will eventually melt, of course. But they're just going to, they have soy lecithin, Lecithin, and that's what actually keeps it formed so that they don't melt away so easily. So that's just a little instruction on chocolate, and I thought I'd go over that because some people buy this real expensive chocolate, and it really just depends on what your needs are. Don't go out and buying an expensive chocolate if you know, you're not making something that really matters the quality of the chocolate. In certain things, such as just making chocolate chip cookies, you're fine with this. But if you want to make a high quality dessert, and it's very important to the chocolate, you want to have a nice bittersweet chocolate with a high amount of cacao content. So when we get back, we're going to unveil our molten lava cakes, and we're going to garnish them for you, and we'll see you back in just a few moments. Okay, welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy. I'm just going to do a quick review on how to make whipped cream in case some of you might have forgotten. We got about 3 cups heavy whipping cream. This will make quite a bit actually, but you can keep it for about 24 hours. And a 1/4 cup of sugar, a little bit of about a teaspoon of nice pure vanilla extract, and we're going to start whipping that. We're going to get that up at about up to 10. I always start out slow because I don't want it to be all over me. If you don't whip it up really fast, you're not going to get the aeration. If you over whip it, you'll get butter, of course.
Yeah.
It's going to take about 2 minutes for this to be done. Not even. Try to get it up to the highest speed that you can. If you don't, then you'll just stir it around, and again, you'll actually have a whipped cream that isn't just fluffy. So you get it up to that high speed as fast as you can. We have a nice whipped cream, and that's just beautiful. That's what you want. This is a soft whipped cream. If I were to pipe it, I'd just whip it just a little bit more, but you don't want it whipped much more than that. Okay, how are we doing, Chef? Are we almost there? I think we're almost there. We're going to try and unmold these. Sometimes, perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, perfect. We're going to get if you could get me a little knife there and a dry towel, that'd be perfect.
I will be right back.
All right. He's going to grab me a knife. What we're going to do is we're going to unmold these, and we're going to see how these go. Do you see how nice and cracked they are? They still should be uncooked in the center, but we want them cracked and kind of pulling away from the sides. And don't worry if they're a little crispy on the top. They'll just make it easier for you to unmold it. These are very hot. You're going to let them sit about a minute, not even. Okay, thank you, Chef. We're just going to go around. I usually use a steak knife, something very thin. A butter knife's a little bit too thick. You might cut into it. All right? And again, be very careful. Use a nice dry towel. Don't use any moist towel. All right? And you're going to go like this. All right? And we're just going to unmold it. And look at that. Perfect. That's just beautiful. Just like when it works out, Chef, don't you?
Hey,
Only took us about 50 million tries. All right, now we're just going to put a little bit of raspberry coulis here on the side. Okay. And we're going to just do a little bit of powdered sugar here. Okay. And if you have some fresh berries, you can put some fresh raspberries on there. And do we have a little spoon or something that we can use here? You know what? We're just going to do this, and we're going to wipe this spoon off here. Okay. All right. And just put a little bit of whipped cream just dolloped right there, just like that. And I'm just going to let it peak. Sometimes it's just nice to have it natural and be really pretty. And we're going to just put a little bit of mint here. And that's just gorgeous right there. That's just beautiful. And when we come back, we're going to do the tasting. So we'll see you back in just a second. Okay, welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy. And I thought I'd just go over a couple of little things here. We got extracts, and you know, one thing that I've noticed in the stores lately is there's so many different kinds of extracts. I saw pineapple and banana and just everything, rum extracts. Of course, I knew about many of them, but some of them were really quite unique. So if you ever want to kind of change this up a little bit, you could put in your whipped cream, instead of vanilla, you could use some different kinds of extracts. You could also add maybe an extract to the batter of this and kind of give it that flavor. And if you want kind of that rum extract flavor, because rum and chocolate go well together, you could use a coffee liqueur and make kind of a chocolate coffee flavor. So there's different things you could kind of change up and experiment by just doing different things with that. And of course you can add different other types of sauces that would work well. Even a nice white chocolate sauce would work quite well. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of things that you can do to have kind of fun, because most of the time when things become a little bit outdated or maybe something that's been around, such as a molten cake, by just doing a little tweaking, we can make it our own. We can make it a little unique. So that's what we try to do, just make it our own and make it unique and have a little bit of fun with it. And so we're going to bring Tammy Thompson over here, and she's going to try this and tell me it tastes great and give it the big thumbs up. And but before we do that, I was just going to ask Mike. Now, Mike, you've been in the program for how long?
This will be my third semester. I've been here for a year.
A little over a year.
A little over a year.
And you just participated in the biggest event that we have at the college, and that is
the gala.
The gala.
That was held last week.
That was last week. We had about 400 people at the gala. And what did you specifically learn at the gala that was so great?
Well, I've learned that it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of time to prepare for these catering events. Also, I've learned that you have to, when it comes to making sure people have enough food, you have to rush back and forth to replenish their food supplies. Otherwise, they will be out of food and they'll just be standing there with people waiting, or they actually will themselves run back and grab the food themselves, and you kind of don't want that spot to be empty. You want them to be there. So that's one thing I've learned.
So a lot of coordination.
Coordination, yes.
A lot of patience, that kind of stuff, overseeing a lot of people and getting something out at the right time, too,
That's right.
I would think is very difficult. I know one of the questions that they had, they said, well, Chef, we had to be done at set up by 5:30, and it was 4:45, and I said, well, we're going to set up right now. And they said, why would we set up right now? I said, by the time we get everything done and out, it'll actually be almost time. And I said, I was already thinking ahead of the different things we wanted to get a picture and all that other stuff in, of course. But, there's all these things that they don't really consider because they haven't done it before. So these are the experiences that we have for the students to give them that kind of real-world experience. Okay, we're going to bring Tammy Thompson over here, and she's going to try this out. And Mike, why don't you try it out, too? And I'll just sit back and don't like it, then I walk away very quickly.
So do I need to put the raspberry and all that stuff into it?
Just put it all in there.
Okay.
And you'll see that it's actually coming out, oozing out. It's just pretty right there. And that should be how it should be. It should be about 1/4 of an inch thick. Is that nice?
That's wonderful.
Isn't that beautiful?
The raspberry's great.
Yeah, the raspberry really adds to it. You don't want to do this without some kind of nice sauce with that. Oh, that's nice. That's beautiful.
That's very nice.
Okay, Tammy's making a stage right exit because she really doesn't want to be on TV today. I always try to embarrass her as much as I can. I want to thank you for joining us once again. Without you, we wouldn't have this program. Without the students and like Mike, we wouldn't have this program. And just appreciate our audience so much. And just remember, I want to cook with you.